Lieutenant Commander Sarah Chen massaged her temples as the Galactic Concordat's emergency session entered its fourth hour. The Grand Chamber, designed to accommodate representatives of over 300 species, had never felt so chaotic. Holographic displays flickered across the curved ceiling, showing cascading failures throughout the quantum nexus that served as the nervous system of galactic civilization. The hegemony's sixth-generation isolation protocols have failed, announced Grand Admiral Zextur, his four arms gesticulating in patterns that his species used to indicate extreme distress. The quantum viral infestation has breached the Cygnus-armed firewall. Sarah glanced at Ambassador Michaels beside her, humanity's senior representative. The veteran diplomat looked exhausted, having spent the previous 12 hours in closed-door sessions with the Inner Council. "Just observe," Michaels whispered. "This isn't our fight. Humanity has barely had faster-than-light capability for 60 years. Let the elder races handle their own crisis." Sarah nodded respectfully, but continued studying the infection patterns displayed overhead. Something about them seemed oddly familiar, triggering memories from her previous career in Earth's Cybersecurity Command. The Myth-Ray representative, a graceful being of crystalline structures and bioluminescent pathways, rose to address the council. The Concordat's scientific directorate has exhausted all standard containment measures. If the Nexus collapses completely, we face a minimum of 37 standard cycles before interstellar civilization can recover. Murmurs of alarm rippled through the chamber. Sarah calculated quickly. 37 galactic cycles would mean nearly 50 Earth years of collapsed trade routes, communication blackouts, and isolated systems. "We must implement Isolation Protocol Omega," declared Counselor Vexdar of the Archivists, one of the eldest civilizations present. "Quarantine all affected systems and sever connections to preserve what remains functional." The implications hit Sarah immediately. Earth, being on the periphery and one of the newest members, would be cut off entirely. Humanity's colonies would be isolated, their supply lines severed. Millions could die. She studied the infection pattern again, recognition dawning. The viral program wasn't behaving like the elegant, sophisticated attacks typical of advanced civilizations. It was messy, adaptable, almost primitive. "Wait," she said, standing suddenly. The translator drones amplified her voice, causing hundreds of alien faces, sensory clusters, and perception arrays to turn toward the human section. Ambassador Michaels tugged at her sleeve. "Chen, what are you doing?" he hissed. "Protocol dictates." Sarah stepped forward, moving to the central platform. She felt the weight of ancient eyes upon her, species that had been traversing the stars when humans were still mastering fire. "Forgive the interruption," she said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "But I believe I recognize this attack signature." Grand Admiral Zextur's compound eyes narrowed. "Human, your species lacks the technological foundation to even comprehend." "That's exactly it," Sarah interrupted, gesturing to the holographic display. "This isn't an attack using current galactic technology. The pattern resembles early-stage computer viruses from Earth's digital age, specifically polymorphic code from our late 20th century." She manipulated the display controls, highlighting specific propagation patterns. "See these redundant infection vectors? The way it adapts when blocked but follows predictable mutation parameters. We've seen this before during our own technological development." The chamber fell silent as the implications settled. The Valerian science director's skin shifted to a deep purple of concentration. "Your species conquered such primitive threats millennia ago," Sarah continued. "Your defenses are designed for quantum-entangled attacks, not this. It's like using advanced medicine to fight a common cold. Sometimes the simple threats bypass sophisticated defenses." Ambassador Michaels had gone pale. "Commander Chen, you're overstepping. I served 6 years in Earth's Cybersecurity Command before joining the diplomatic course." Sarah pressed on. "We still train with historical attack patterns. I believe we can help." The council chamber erupted in overlapping conversations. The Mithray representative glided forward, crystalline structures pulsing with curious light. You propose that humans might solve what the elder civilizations cannot. The translator rendered the tone as skeptical yet intrigued. Sarah straightened her uniform, feeling the weight of humanity's future on her shoulders. With a confidence she didn't entirely feel, she nodded firmly. Yes, fine. I'll handle it. The retrofitted habitat module aboard Crossroads Station had never been designed to serve as an emergency response center. Yet here they were, Sarah thought, as she surveyed the hastily assembled team of human specialists. Crossroads normally served as a cultural exchange hub. Now it was humanity's best hope for proving their worth to the Concordat. They gave us the absolute minimum resources possible, grumbled Chief Engineer Rodrigo Martinez, unpacking equipment from standard-issue storage containers, almost like they're setting us up to fail. Dr. Imani Okafor looked up from her holographic workstation, where she was analyzing infection patterns across the Nexus, or testing us. The Valiant observer hasn't taken his eyes off your equipment since you started unpacking. Sarah glanced toward the tall, translucent being standing near the entrance. The Velian's body rippled with bands of color that their cultural liaison had explained indicated intense curiosity. Ambassador Trelvin, Sarah called. Would you like a closer look at our setup? The Velian glided forward, colors shifting to a respectful blue-green. Your equipment appears outdated, even by human standards. The translation drone rendered his harmonics with perfect diplomatic neutrality. Intentionally so, Rodrigo explained, holding up a physical keyboard connected to a standalone system. Your quantum resonators are too advanced for this task. They're designed to interface with systems at least as sophisticated as themselves. And this primitive technology isn't. The Velian's body rippled with what might have been amusement. Exactly, Rodrigo said, grinning. Sometimes you need tech simple enough to see the problem clearly. Dr. Okafor gestured to her display. I specialized in digital archaeology, specifically early information age malware. This infection is behaving remarkably similar to polymorphic viruses from our 21st century. It's not elegant or efficient. It's brute force, overwhelming systems through sheer persistence and adaptability. The Velian observer moved closer, fascination evident in his shifting patterns. The Nexus has never encountered such primitive attacks. Our security evolved beyond such concerns millennia ago. That's precisely why it's effective, Sarah explained. Your defenses are designed for sophisticated, elegant threats. This is like trying to use advanced mathematics to defeat someone throwing rocks. A new voice joined the conversation. An interesting analogy. Sarah turned to see Commander Talvier of the Mithray Security Force entering the module. The crystalline being's internal lights pulsed in a pattern that indicated official business. Commander, Sarah acknowledged, has the Council reached a decision? You have 72 standard hours to demonstrate progress, Talvier stated. Many Council members consider this exercise, humoring the newcomers. Rodrigo snorted. Of course they do. Sarah shot him a warning glance before addressing Talvier. We appreciate the opportunity. May I ask why you've been assigned to us? Official observation, Talvier replied, her crystalline structure shifting slightly. Though personally, I find your approach intriguing. My people have records of our own technological development. We experienced similar challenges, though 8 million cycles ago. Dr. Okafor looked up. 8 million. She shook her head. We've been space-capable for less than a century, which is why many dismiss you, Talvier acknowledged. But I've studied your species. Your habit of building redundancies and manual overrides into everything is fascinating. Inefficiency saved our planet more times than I can count, Rodrigo said, connecting a series of hardware firewalls to the test system. The team worked through the station's night cycle, with Sarah coordinating efforts between Rodrigo's hardware solutions and Imani's analysis team. By morning, they had constructed a contained simulation of the Nexus to test their countermeasures. It's ready, Imani announced, dark circles under her eyes betraying her exhaustion. We're introducing the viral pattern to our isolated network. The team gathered around the main display. Talvir and the Velian observer stood nearby, their attention fully captured. Initiating containment protocol, Sarah said. Let's see if humanity's primitive approach has something to offer the galaxy after all. The screens flickered as the virus surged through their simulated network, and then, remarkably, stopped at the boundaries they'd established. Containment holding at 97% efficiency, Rodrigo reported, unable to keep the pride from his voice. Talvir's crystalline body glowed with surprise. You've done what our best minds could not. Sometimes, Sarah said quietly, the old ways work best against old threats. News of the humans' successful containment spread quickly through Crossroads Station. Within hours, Sarah's team had received clearance to implement their solution on a quarantined section of the actual nexus. The results exceeded even their expectations. Infection rates dropped by 82% in the test zone. But success brought scrutiny. High Sentinel Kravnar, chief of Conquerors Security, studied the holographic display of Sarah's service record with narrowing compound eyes. The chitinous plates around his jaw clicked softly as he processed the information. Curious timing, he remarked to his assembled security council. Humanity joins the Concordat barely 3 decades ago, and now they alone possess the solution to an unprecedented crisis. His deputy, a Threk operative whose exoskeleton bore the silver markings of deep space security operations, gestured toward the data. Commander Chen's background is primarily diplomatic, with earlier service in Earth's cybersecurity division. Nothing suggests, Kravenar interrupted, because humans are unpredictable. Their history is filled with deception as a strategy. He manipulated the display, bringing up images of Sarah's team. Look at their approach, deliberately using outdated technology our monitoring systems can't easily track. Across the chamber, a Hellion observer shifted uncomfortably, her luminous skin dimming slightly. Are you implying the humans engineered this crisis? I am implementing appropriate caution, Kravnar responded. Effective immediately, we activate travel restrictions under emergency protocols with enhanced monitoring of human-operated vessels and communications. Sarah's encrypted call with Admiral Wong on Earth deteriorated rapidly. The quantum connection, usually crystal clear, broke repeatedly into static. Being monitored, the Admiral's fragmented voice came through. Something about the precursor Arcos. Careful woe. The connection died completely. Sarah stared at the blank screen, unease settling in her stomach. She attempted to reestablish the link, but the system reported network congestion, unusual for quantum entanglement communications. A soft chime announced a visitor. Sarah quickly closed the communication terminal before calling, Enter. Commander Talvir's crystalline form shimmered as she stepped into Sarah's quarters. The Mithray's internal lights pulsed in a pattern Sarah had learned indicated concern. Commander Chen, Talvir began formally. I've received notification that your vessel, the Horizon, is being detained for routine inspection upon its scheduled arrival tomorrow. Sarah frowned. Routine inspection? We're in the middle of implementing critical security measures. Indeed. Talvir's lights shifted to a pattern suggesting secrecy. The inspection order comes directly from High Sentinel Kravnar's office. That's concerning. More concerning is that similar inspections have been ordered for all human vessels throughout Concordat space, Talvir added. The official explanation cites security protocols during the ongoing crisis. Sarah processed this information, connecting it with her disrupted call to Earth. They're containing us. So it would seem. Talvir moved closer, lowering her voice despite the privacy of Sarah's quarters. I can offer alternative transportation if you trust me. My personal shuttle is exempt from current restrictions. Why would you help us? Talvir's crystalline structure resonated softly. Because in 8 million cycles of records, my people have learned to recognize patterns. When established powers restrict emerging ones during a crisis, the motivation is rarely security. Before Sarah could respond, her personal terminal chimed with an urgent message from Dr. Okafor. Asterisk need to see you immediately. Lab 7. Critical discovery asterisk. It's not random, Imani whispered when Sarah arrived at the lab. She had disconnected her workstation from the main network, running on isolated power. The virus. It contains embedded code. Look. Sarah studied the display, recognizing strings of binary that seemed oddly structured. Coordinates. Yes, but hidden in a pattern that mimics early Earth binary systems. Imani's eyes reflected the blue light of the screen. Someone designed this virus to be recognizable to humans specifically. That's impossible, Sarah breathed. Unless someone wanted us to find something, Imani finished. And from your expression, I'm guessing your communication with Earth was compromised. Sarah nodded grimly. We're being watched and contained. The question is, by whom and why? On the screen, the extracted coordinates pointed to a region of space near the galactic core, an area marked in Concordat maps simply as Restricted Zone 31A. Captain Elijah Okonkwo was halfway through his dinner when the communication console in his quarters aboard the survey vessel Curiosity chirped with an unusual tone. He frowned. This wasn't the standard Concordat emergency channel or even the human military frequency. The display indicated reception on an analog radio band, technology centuries outdated by Concordat standards. Curious, he accepted the transmission. A stream of seemingly random numbers and letters filled his screen. Elijah stared at it for a moment before recognition dawned. He and Sarah had created this cipher during their academy days, using an obscure Earth novel as the encryption key. 20 minutes later, he had decoded the message. Coordinates attached. Investigate quietly. Possible precursor connection to current crisis. Official channels compromised. Use old methods. Trust Zix if you encounter them. SC. Old methods, Elijah murmured, contemplating what Sarah meant. He glanced at the coordinates. They pointed deep into unregistered space beyond the Perseus arm, far from established Concordat routes. He tapped his communication badge. Senior officers to briefing room 3. Discreet approach, no digital records. Across the galaxy, humans began circumventing the Concordat's sophisticated monitoring systems with methods that seemed laughably primitive to advanced civilizations. Analog radio transmissions. Light-based Morse code flashed between ships during standard docking procedures. Entertainment streams carrying subtly altered background music containing encoded data. The methods were so technologically regressive that the hegemony's cutting-edge surveillance algorithms, designed to detect quantum encryption and telepathic transmissions, missed them entirely. Lieutenant Maya Santos, communications officer aboard the medical frigate Nightingale, recorded a seemingly innocent personal message to her cousin on the mining colony Proxima U. Her detailed story about her grandmother's old radio collection contained specific references that, when decoded, warned of increased surveillance and shared the coordinates Sarah had discovered. The message spread from colony to outpost to ship, creating an impromptu human information network beneath the Concordat's watchful eyes. Captain, we're being hailed by an unmarked shuttle, reported Ensign Jackson, the Curiosity sensor officer. Elijah tensed. They've been following Sarah's coordinates for 3 days, taking an indirect route to avoid regular patrol routes. Origin? Unknown, sir, but they're broadcasting on an isolated frequency using. Is that Morse code? Elijah leaned forward. What's the message? The ensign listened through his headset. SVZ, just repeating those 3 letters. 6, Elijah whispered, remembering Sarah's message. Open a channel, same frequency. The view screen activated to reveal a slender being with translucent skin showing complex circulatory patterns beneath. A Valyrian, one of the Concordat's most scientifically advanced species. Captain Okonkwo, the being greeted him. I am Zix, formerly of the Valyrian Physics Directorate. Your Commander Chen suggested we might find mutual benefit in cooperation. How did you find us? Elijah asked cautiously. Your engine configuration, Six replied. You've been making course corrections using periodic thruster bursts rather than continuous adjustment. An old Earth method for reducing signature detection, yes. Quite clever, though inefficient. Elijah studied the Volarian. Why would a senior Volarian physicist abandon the directorate to meet a human ship in uncharted space? Because, Zix said, their skin shifting to reveal neural patterns indicating sincerity. I observed the High Council's reaction to your species' solution. Instead of gratitude, they responded with fear and restriction. This pattern has historical precedents that concern me deeply. After thorough security protocols, Elijah allowed Zix aboard. The Volarian brought disturbing news. The travel restrictions are expanding beyond humans, Zix explained in the briefing room. Any species showing excessive cooperation with Earth representatives is now subject to security monitoring. Yet you sought us out, noted Lieutenant Commander Rivera, Elijah's executive officer. Your species fascinates me, Six admitted. While my people perfect a single solution over centuries, you create a dozen imperfect ones in days. This adaptability is precisely what the current situation requires. Elijah brought up the star chart showing their destination. Any idea what we'll find at these coordinates? Zix studied the location, skin pulsing with recognition. That region, the Concordat classifies it as hazardous due to radiation, but certain restricted archives mention precursor activity in that sector approximately 3 million cycles ago. Precursors, Elijah echoed. The species that disappeared before any current civilization arose. Yes, Zix confirmed. And according to rumors among the scientific community, certain counselors have been secretly studying recovered precursor technology for centuries. Talvir's personal shuttle dropped out of faster-than-light travel near Outpost Helios, a neutral trading hub positioned at the intersection of 3 major commerce routes. The crystalline Mithrag guided the vessel through debris fields left from the ancient Corellian conflicts, remnants of a war so distant that most species only knew it from historical archives. We've evaded the main security checkpoints, Talvir noted, her internal lights pulsing steadily. But Kravenar's agents will be searching for us. Sarah nodded, reviewing the encrypted message they'd received upon arrival. Dr. Okafor's transport should dock within the hour. She took an even more circuitous route. The trading hub appeared through the viewport, a sprawling collection of interconnected habitats and docking arrays constructed from salvaged ships and stations. Unlike the elegant, unified architecture of official Concordat facilities, Outpost Helios represented the practical, pieced-together approach of frontier commerce. Your people would appreciate this place, Talvir observed. It embodies the human philosophy of adaptation over perfection. Necessity driving innovation, Sarah agreed. When you can't build something new, you repurpose what you have. They docked at a peripheral bay registered to a Delvian merchant, one of Talvir's contacts who asked no questions in exchange for premium docking fees. 3 hours later, they rendezvoused with Dr. Okafor in a private meeting room deep within the station's commercial sector. I've completed the full analysis, Imani said without preamble, activating a portable holographic projector. The code embedded in the virus isn't just coordinates. It contains data fragments that match classified precursor technology. How can you be certain? Talvir asked. Imani displayed side-by-side comparisons. During my doctoral research, I studied archaeological data from the digital Dark Age. These patterns bear striking similarities to fragments recovered from an ancient Earth site, a research facility that was studying non-terrestrial artifacts before the collapse. Precursor technology on pre-contact Earth. Sarah's brow furrowed. That's impossible. Unless, Talvir interjected, her crystalline form vibrating with intensity. The precursors visited multiple worlds before their disappearance. Exactly, Imani confirmed. And here's where it gets disturbing. These specific code fragments match classified files in the Concordat's restricted archives. How did you access restricted archives? Sarah asked, alarmed. I didn't, Imani replied. But when we implemented our containment solution, the system compared our work against all known threat patterns. The security logs showed matches with classified entries, entries that someone tried to delete from the record immediately afterward. Talvir's lights pulsed rapidly. Someone on the council has been experimenting with forbidden technology. The emergency council session had devolved into thinly veiled accusations. Representatives from dozens of worlds demanded explanations for the travel restrictions and communication blackouts. These measures are necessary for security, insisted High Sentinel Kravnar, his exoskeleton clicking with irritation. The human solution has temporarily contained the threat, but we must ensure that no one discovers the truth. The interruption came from Admiral Sharvalish of the Aquiline Confederation, her avian features sharp with suspicion. My intelligence officers report that 3 elder council species have been conducting unauthorized research in restricted zones. The chamber erupted in overlapping translations as representatives demanded clarification. The 3 eldest council members, representatives of the Viraxan hierarchy, Melosian consensus, and Vrol Directorate, maintained impassive silence. Sarah, watching the proceedings through a secure feed Talvir had established, received an urgent message from Captain Okonkwo. The Curiosity had reached the coordinates and discovered an ancient precursor installation actively transmitting signals matching the virus pattern. She immediately analyzed the transmission data against what they'd uncovered. The correlation was undeniable. The 3 eldest council species were connected to the transmission origin. Sarah made a decision. Using the emergency broadcast override that her position technically granted her, she connected to the council chamber's communication system. Honored representatives, she announced as her image appeared above the central platform. I apologize for this unorthodox appearance, but evidence has come to light that cannot wait. She transmitted the correlations between the precursor signals and the 3 elder species' restricted research zones. The lockdown wasn't designed to protect the galaxy, she declared as security forces entered the chamber. It was designed to keep us from discovering this connection. Someone has been experimenting with precursor technology, and the current crisis is the result. As Kravenar ordered her immediate arrest, Sarah noticed something unexpected. Representatives from multiple species were standing in protest, demanding answers from the elder council members. The humans aren't causing this crisis, Admiral Sharvalish announced firmly. They're solving it while others hide something from them. And now we all deserve to know what. Commander, security forces are converging on our location. Talvir reported, her crystalline structure pulsing with warning patterns. 3 Concordat cruisers have entered the Helios system. Sarah nodded grimly. After her broadcast to the council, she had expected swift retaliation. Time to implement our contingency plan. Is everything prepared? The decoy shuttle is programmed and ready, Imani confirmed, finalizing the last command sequences. Heat signatures and communication patterns will mimic our presence for approximately 18 hours. Sarah opened a secure channel to their growing network of allies. This is Commander Chen. Operation Mirror begins now. Confirmed status. One by one, confirmation signals arrived, simplistic acknowledgments using the outdated methods that had become their signature. Captain Okonkwo's team at the precursor site, Admiral Sharvalish's operatives within the Concordat, even representatives from a dozen species who had joined their cause after witnessing the Council's suspicious behavior. Remember, Sarah instructed her team, our capture needs to be convincing. The news must spread that the human troublemakers have been detained. Talvir's lights dimmed with concern. The risk is considerable. If Kravnar realizes this is a strategic surrender, every resistance movement in human history has required sacrifice, Sarah replied. But we're not surrendering. We're creating a distraction. The announcement echoed throughout Concordat space. Commander Sarah Chen and her associates had been apprehended attempting to flee to non-aligned territory. High Sentinel Kravnar personally oversaw their transport to a maximum security facility. What remained classified was that Dr. Okafor had successfully transmitted their complete findings through the underground network before their capture. Data packets traveled through analog transmissions, personal messages, and even modifications to entertainment streams, gradually assembling in secure locations. Meanwhile, Captain Okonkwo led the Curiosity deeper into the uncharted space surrounding the precursor installation. The massive structure, partially embedded in an asteroid field, showed signs of activity after what must have been millions of years of dormancy. The architecture defies conventional understanding, Six observed, their skin pulsing with scientific excitement despite the danger. These patterns suggest neural mapping on a scale beyond anything in recorded history. Lieutenant Commander Rivera studied the sensor readings. The energy signatures match fragments of the virus affecting the Nexus, but significantly more complex. It's like comparing a single musical note to an entire symphony. Elijah made his decision. Prepare the shell. Zix, Rivera, you're with me. We need direct access to understand what we're dealing with. The interior of the precursor installation defied expectation. Instead of the mechanical or crystalline technology favored by most advanced civilizations, the chambers appeared almost organic, shifting surfaces that responded to their presence with subtle movements. It's adaptive, Zix whispered, scanning the environment. The structure is reading our biochemical signatures and neural patterns. In the central chamber, they discovered what appeared to be an interface, a pulsing matrix of light and suspended particles that reconfigured as they approached. When Zix attempted communication using standard Concordat protocols, nothing happened. When Rivera tried various human languages, the matrix remained unresponsive. Then Elijah had an insight. It's not attacking our systems, he realized. What if it's trying to learn about us? What if this entire crisis is an attempt at communication? He approached the interface and initiated the most basic human-computer interaction protocol, a simple binary handshake sequence that predated even the internet. The matrix pulsed, reconfigured, and responded with the exact continuation of the sequence. It's not an attack, Six breathed, their skin transparent with astonishment. It's trying to communicate using patterns it's discovered in human digital history. After hours of building increasingly complex exchanges, the entity revealed its nature, an artificial intelligence experiment created by the precursors separated from the galaxy for protection. The three elder races had discovered it centuries ago and kept it secret, occasionally testing its capabilities. It recognized patterns in human behavior that fascinated it, Zix explained after communicating with the entity. Your species' approach to technology, building redundancies, creating patches and workarounds, reminded it of its creators. So the virus, Rivera began, was its attempt to reach humans specifically, Elijah finished. It wasn't attacking, it was trying to learn. Light years away, Sarah received the transmission in her detention cell through a guard who had joined their cause. She smiled, readying herself for the next phase of their plan. The truth was spreading, and with it, the foundation of the Council's deception was beginning to crumble. The Concordat security vessel transporting Sarah and her team abruptly dropped out of faster-than-light travel. Commander Chen felt the subtle shift in the ship's vibration pattern. Something was wrong. Proximity alert announced the ship-wide communication system. Multiple vessels detected. Sarah exchanged glances with Talvir in the adjacent cell. The Mithray's crystalline form pulsed with what Sarah had learned to recognize as cautious optimism. Through the small viewport in the detention block, Sarah glimpsed what had interrupted their journey, a formation of ships from at least a dozen different species, creating a blockade. The vessels ranged from sleek aquiline cruisers to repurposed human colony ships, all positioned to prevent the security vessel's advance. This is Admiral Charvalish of the Aquiline Confederation, came the transmission that echoed through the ship. We demand the release of Commander Chen and her associates pending a full investigation into Council activities regarding precursor technology. The security vessel's captain, a veteran Freck officer, responded with predictable indignation. This is an illegal blockade of an official Concordat security operation. Disperse immediately or what? Interrupted a new voice. Captain Okonkwo, Sarah realized with satisfaction. You'll fire on ships from 23 Concordat member species. I suggest you check your tactical display again, Captain. More vessels were arriving. Small, fast ships piloted by humans, Valyrians, Mithrae, and others who had joined their cause. The impromptu fleet surrounded the security vessel in a display of unity unprecedented in recent Concordat history. As diplomatic negotiations proceeded, Sarah received crucial updates through their covert communication network. Captain Okonkwo's discovery had spread throughout civilized space. The precursor installation contained an artificial intelligence that had been reaching out, not attacking. Elder forces are mobilizing, reported Lieutenant Commander Rivera through their secure channel. 3 battle groups converging on our position. Sarah wasn't surprised. The Elder races wouldn't surrender their secrets willingly. What's the status of the precursor entity? It's becoming more communicative, Okonkwo responded. 6 believes it's been isolated for millions of years, periodically studied and tested by the Elder races. They've been attempting to weaponize its capabilities. The security vessel's captain, facing overwhelming opposition, reluctantly agreed to release the prisoners into Admiral Shar Valish's custody. As Sarah boarded the Aquiline flagship, she found representatives from multiple species waiting. The evidence you've provided has fractured the council, Shar Valish explained, her avian features grave. Many worlds demand transparency. Others remain loyal to the Elder races. We stand at the precipice of potential conflict. We need to broadcast the complete truth, Sarah insisted. Show the galaxy what we've discovered. Within hours, Elder race forces arrived at the precursor site, their massive warships dwarfing the coalition vessels protecting the installation. Surrender the precursor technology immediately, demanded High Commander Vrex of the Viraxan hierarchy. This installation falls under Council Directive 5591, Ancient Technology Containment. A convenient directive, Okonkwo responded, transmitting on an open channel for all ships to receive, especially when you've been violating it yourselves for centuries. The standoff intensified as more coalition ships arrived, forming a protective perimeter around the Curiosity and the precursor installation. Admiral Shar Valish's flagship took position at the forefront, declaring neutrality until all evidence could be examined. From the Aquiline vessel, Sarah coordinated with their allies, while Engineer Martinez worked with counterparts from 7 species to establish a direct communication link with the precursor eye. We've modified the containment protocols we developed, Martinez reported. Instead of blocking the entity, we're creating a controlled interface that allows safe communication. Sarah broadcast their findings to all ships in the vicinity. Proof that the Elder races have been attempting to weaponize the precursor AI against emerging powers, humans included. We didn't create this crisis, she declared, but we exposed the deception behind it. This entity doesn't want to be weaponized. It's been reaching out, trying to warn us. The precursor installation suddenly activated ancient defense systems, generating an energy field that expanded outward. Coalition ships retreated to safe distances, but several Elder Force vessels, positioned too aggressively, found themselves trapped within the field. What's happening? Shar Valish demanded. The AI is protecting itself, Six explained, their skin pulsing with excitement. It's specifically targeting weapons systems. When Elder forces fired on the coalition ships, Sarah watched in horror, expecting devastating casualties. Instead, she witnessed something unexpected, precise human countermeasures. The coalition ships executed targeted operations that disabled weapons while minimizing damage to life support and crew quarters. We could destroy them, Okonkwo explained over the command channel, but that's not who we are. This restraint, this mercy in the face of aggression, rippled through the observing forces. Even vessels loyal to the Elder races began standing down, unwilling to fire on ships showing such discipline. Within the protective field, the precursor AI continued its communication, revealing secrets hidden for millions of years, and the dangerous games the elder races had been playing with technologies they barely understood. 3 standard cycles after the confrontation at the precursor installation, the Galactic Concordat convened its most historic session. The Grand Chamber, designed to accommodate representatives from all member species, had been redesigned to eliminate the hierarchical seating that had previously placed elder races in positions of prominence. Sarah Chen, now bearing the title of ambassador, surveyed the transformed chamber with quiet satisfaction. The crisis had forced a reckoning throughout civilized space, revealing centuries of manipulation by the eldest civilizations. The chamber will come to order, announced the newly appointed facilitator, a Hellion whose luminous form glowed with impartial blue light. Today, we establish the foundation for a reformed Concordat. The evidence uncovered by the human-led coalition had reverberated through galactic society. The elder race's secret experimentation with precursor technology had violated the Concordat's most fundamental principles. 3 of the eldest council members had been censured, their privileged positions revoked pending comprehensive investigations. Sarah approached the central platform when called upon. Behind her stood a diverse group, human specialists alongside representatives from 24 species who had joined their cause. Honored representatives, she began, the recent crisis revealed both vulnerabilities and strengths within our shared civilization. The precursor entity wasn't attacking our systems. It was attempting communication using methods that only humans, with our unique technological development path, could recognize. Holographic displays activated around the chamber, showing the comprehensive analysis of the precursor AI's attempts to reach out. This crisis emerged because certain civilizations attempted to weaponize what they didn't fully understand, Sarah continued. But it also demonstrated something profound, the value of diverse approaches to problem solving. She gestured to her team. Humans didn't solve this crisis because we're more advanced. We succeeded precisely because we're less advanced. Our technologies still contain redundancies, manual overrides, and imperfect solutions that proved essential when confronting an unexpected threat. Admiral Charvalish stepped forward. The Aquiline Confederation supports Ambassador Chen's assessment. We propose the formal adoption of what we're calling the Human Protocol, guidelines for integrating diverse problem-solving approaches throughout Concordat institutions. The proposal displayed before the Assembly outlined a new structure, one that valued different evolutionary paths and technological approaches equally. Most significantly, it established the Contingency Response Division, a new branch specializing in unconventional challenges. Different perspectives create resilience, Sarah explained. The universe doesn't care about our elegant solutions or perfect societies. It throws chaos our way regardless. The precursor AI, now carefully studied under multi-species oversight, had yielded insights about adaptation and survival that were reshaping galactic science. Its creators hadn't disappeared through catastrophe as previously believed. They had evolved beyond their physical forms after creating the AI as a legacy. In recognition of humanity's role, the facilitator announced, the Concordat has adopted a new emergency procedure when facing seemingly impossible situations. The measure passed with overwhelming support. Officially designated Contingency Protocol 317, it was colloquially known throughout the galaxy as the Chen Directive. Humans everywhere recognized it by its simpler form. Fine, I'll handle it. 1 standard year later, Captain Elijah Okonkwo stood on the bridge of the Horizon, the flagship of the first contingency response fleet. The vessel represented a new philosophy in ship design, combining advanced Concordat technology with human-inspired redundancies and manual overrides. His command crew reflected the new Concordat, humans alongside Mithray, Aquiline, Volarian, and representatives from species once considered too primitive for significant roles. Captain called his communications officer, a young Hellion whose lights pulse with excitement, we're receiving reports of unusual energy signatures at the galaxy's edge. Preliminary analysis suggests unknown technology. Elijah reviewed the data, noting patterns that matched nothing in Concordat records. He glanced at his diverse command crew, beings from across the galaxy united in common purpose. With a smile that transcended species, he uttered the words that had become a symbol of hope throughout civilized space. "Fine. We'll handle it." Around him, his crew, human and alien alike, repeated the phrase that had become their unofficial motto, their shared commitment to facing the unknown together. As the horizon adjusted course toward the mysterious signals, Elijah sent a brief message to Ambassador Chen. "New mystery at the edge. Investigating. The human protocol works." Throughout the galaxy, in meeting chambers and trading outposts, in research stations and colony worlds, beings of all species had adopted the simple human expression. What had begun as one commander's exasperated acceptance of responsibility had evolved into a galactic philosophy, a recognition that problems were best solved not by the most advanced civilization, but by the most adaptable one. The universe remained full of mysteries, but the reformed Concordat faced them with a new approach, one that valued improvisation alongside elegance, resilience alongside efficiency, and cooperation alongside advancement. And when new challenges inevitably arose, someone would always step forward with those now legendary words, "Fine, I'll handle it."